All right, everybody. Dennis Prager here, a rare guest in studio. She lives in Kazakhstan, and we brought her in. All right, she doesn't live in Kazakhstan. She lives a few miles away. Peachy Keenan is her pseudonym, like George Orwell was Eric Blair's pseudonym, and that's fine by me. I love the name. Peachy Keenan is a really fine choice. I had her on a few weeks ago because of this terrific piece that she had written about the prosecution of the man who helped out people on the subway who were being threatened and truly threatened by this homeless, sick man who had been let out of prison so many times, and now he's being prosecuted. So was it you who made the point we're rewarding men for not being men?
Yeah, exactly.
That was so terrific. That has stayed with me as one of the important points of our time. Act like a man and we'll prosecute you. Act like a wimp and you'll do fine.
That's right. It's like a threat to other men, to warning them, don't stand up, don't protect women and children.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're kind of breeding in a generation of cowards. It's really sad.
To say the least. So her book, I did not even know it at the time, but it just came out, Domestic Extremist. Great title, by the way.
Thank you.
A practical guide to winning the culture war. But it's specifically a guide for men and women, and even more particularly for women, correct?
That's right, yes.
So you are, if you will, this is sort of the anti-feminist manifesto.
Exactly. I love that. And I don't even live in a cabin in the woods. I wrote a manifesto. It's basically, what happened? How did women get here? That's the first half of the book, what they took from us, basically everything. And then the second half is how we get it back, how we kind of return to sort of a sense of, being normal is okay for a woman. Stay a woman, get married, try to have a family. Stay home with your young children. You're not allowed to say those things anymore. Those things are now taboo thanks to feminism.
So I'm going to ask you a question you probably have not been asked. So you're sort of being put on the spot.
That's okay.
But I have said and even written that women are now playing a disproportionate role in hurting society. Mm-hmm. Overwhelmingly, it is women teaching in elementary schools. I mean, overwhelmingly. About 3/4, and at the younger grades, 85%, 95% of the librarians, where so much of the rot is taking place, like Drag Queen Story Hour. Mm-hmm. What is your explanation for this?
Yeah, it does seem like feminism has successfully beguiled all the women to sort of like be their minions. And they're the mothers who are putting their children through the transgender machine. What has gone wrong with women? We need women to save society. I mean, I think that just feminism has created a situation where you basically need to claim all these virtue points. You need to find your true worth is by being a loyal member of the sisterhood. And if you break out of that, like I did, you get a lot of backlash. You get a lot of hate. It's much harder for you to kind of live your life in mainstream society. There's no reward for a woman who doesn't go along with the crowd, who breaks away from her like college girlfriends, who decides to quit her job, to stay home with her newborn, to nurse her newborn, to keep the baby out of daycare. There's no reward for that. There's no societal value put on that. You're just now an outcast, basically. You've committed treason.
So how do you answer their claim, well, we have no choice? That sounds great if you can afford it.
Right. I mean, that is a real issue, and I did address it at the end of the book. I mean, we have, Elizabeth Warren at one point wrote a great book. She was an anti-feminist. She wrote a book, The Two-Income Trap, how the economy is structured to really, make it almost impossible for a family to survive on one income and have a family. Tucker Carlson has talked about this eloquently, and it is a real problem. And it does feel like all these policies have been put in place and designed to make that, to living like a, what they call a trad wife, which is basically a stay-at-home mom, at least for those first few years. That's been made totally impossible, and it feels like it's by design. But I mean, I know a lot of women who have a lot of kids, 6, 7, or more kids, and they have it's a huge financial sacrifice, but like it's one that there's no other choice for them. Like, there was no choice for me to leave my job. I worked at a huge entertainment company. I was totally in the closet as a conservative, and I got pregnant with my 5th baby. And I was like, sayonara. Like, there was just no way, for me. I would never have left my baby. And I would see young women come back after having a baby without their 6-week-old. And I'd be like, well, where's your baby? Oh, he's at school. It's just sad. And I'm glad that I was willing to make the sacrifice. And I think a lot of people just aren't willing. It's a financial sacrifice. And also you get blackballed, by your friends.
When you say by your friends, that interests me because it would seem that a person like you, your friends would be kindred spirits. They'd be supportive.
Let me clarify. My old friends, my liberal friends, my colleagues at work who are 100% far left feminists. I have new friends now, Dennis, and they all listen to you.
Well, maybe I shouldn't say it, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
I found new friends.
What turned off the old friends?
I think right around the time I had my 3rd child, they all had 2, of course. That's like the legally mandated limit in Los Angeles for children. Because you can't fit 3 car seats in the back of a Tesla, right? So I think once I had my 3rd, there was like, uh-oh, she's like off the reservation. She's, breaking some rules. I had another one. I kept going. And then when I converted to Catholicism, that really marked me. And I mean real Catholicism. We go to Mass every Sunday. Our children go to, all these Catholic programs. We're really trying to form them as, cradle Catholics. I did not have that opportunity as a secular atheist. But once I became a Catholic, like a card-carrying, Catholic, that was it for me. It was like the equivalent of getting a neck tattoo. There's no hiding it anymore.
That's cute.
I'm a
neck tattoo.
Yeah, I like to say I'm not a domestic extremist. I'm extremely domestic. But these are the things, just going to church, raising a large family. These are the things that mark you as like extreme and scary. And so,
if I may ask, was there a financial hit for you and your husband?
Oh, absolutely. I was making, I worked at home with the first 4 children. I was a freelance writer, copywriter. And when my then oldest was in school, I got an opportunity out of the blue, sort of a dream job for a copywriter, enormous perks, 6-figure income, benefits, everything. And I was like, okay, we can make this work, And leaving that was really hard. It was like gold-plated perks, everything. But it was like I had you could have offered me $1 million, you know what I mean? And that you would not have gotten that baby out of my arms.
So that's what I try to tell people when they say, well, we can't do it because of economics. Mm-hmm. And then I think of people like you, whom I've met all of my life, and you're not rich.
No, not at all.
So you do what you think you have to do. That would strike me as the answer.
Yeah.
I would love to ask people whose kids are now woke. In retrospect, would you have taken a financial hit to ensure your kid is not woke?
Right. Yeah, when I talk about daycare, people get really triggered. How can I afford not to send the child to daycare? How can I afford to stay home with my baby? And I'm like, you think there's not going to be a cost, but there will be a cost, and you'll just have to pay it later. You're just going to take the financial hit later. You're just going to lose like you said, you're going to lose contact with your child. They're being raised by who knows who. You're not going to be able to form them. You're sort of stretching out that maternal bond, and it gets kind of flabby. You have to, if you're letting people make all those decisions for your own kids as they grow up, you're like less empowered. You've let these, childcare experts make the decisions.
Were you able to stay in the same home as a result of this decision? Did you have to downsize?
We actually did move, but we actually moved closer to be with like our like-minded friends. Catholic people, like around people who would basically accept us as extremely domestic people. And I'm not going to lie, it was really difficult. My husband had to get a new job. We didn't go on fancy vacations.
Okay, this is really important. I had no idea what your answer would be. You could have said, actually, we have $1 million income and it was not an issue. I did not know what you would answer, but it is very important for people who say, I can't homeschool, or I can't stay home with my children or my child because of economic factors, you might be able. You have decided not to. I'm not blaming
Right.
these people. I'm not judging them. But it is not true that you can't.
Yeah.
It is true that you have decided not to. And you have foregone a number of material things.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, I drive a...
All right, the book is Domestic Extremist. It's a great title. And I have dubbed it the Anti-Feminist Manifesto by a truly thinking woman.